fast lesson. We are fortunate today to have Dr. Ralph brought George and John, well known from their exploits in Moonlight Tales, are going to join us in a very quick lesson in order to be able to crack the code for the book Moonlight Tales. All right, we are going to begin with spelling of sounds. Are you two ready?
Yes.
Ch, echo. Ch. Go ahead, point to your board. And what else? Good. Anytime I use and, that means point to the additional. Sh. Sh. Great. R.
R.
K. And, good. G.
G.
Shh. And
G. Ch. Sh. Qu. S. R. X. I. E. A. Oi. Ow.
two sounds.
Ooh.
All right, let us review. I've introduced yesterday the vowel changing, okay? Let us review that. If the O tags the P, what would that be? Okay, what would the word be?
Open.
Have you ever heard of open?
No.
No. So then what we do is we change it. What's the word?
Open.
Open. So this is called changing. You try it one way, and if that doesn't make a word, you try it another way. Let's try another. Now the A is going to tag the T. What does that make that?
Latex.
Okay, put that together.
Latex.
Did you ever hear of latex?
No.
Let's change it. Now what is it?
Latex.
Okay, let's go into your next book. We're presently in the Ghost Ship, but your next book is going to have you do some vowel changing. So let's go to your next book and practice this. Okay? That's going to be the French Quarter Phantom. Okay? Now, as you'll look here, you're going to notice that there are some open syllables and silent E. So we're going to practice our vowel changing on this, okay? Go ahead and tag it.
Hot L.
Is that a word?
No.
Change it.
Hotel.
Okay, John, the next.
Lock L.
Is that a word?
No.
Change it.
Local.
Okay, next.
Music. Music.
Go ahead and now read those to yourself in a 2-inch voice. Step tracking. The way to think of step tracking is you're stepping on each sound and kicking out the change, okay? Shab.
Shab. Sh-a-b. Shab.
Shaub.
Shaub. Sh-ow-b. A. Ow. Shaub.
Sheb.
Sheb. Sh-e-b. Ow. Sheb.
Shek.
Shek. Sh-e-b. Shek.
Which k did you use, George?
I used the bigger piece.
Okay, good. Which is what?
CK.
Good. Reading of syllables. Are we ready?
Shay. Shatch. Shay. Shan.
What I'm going to do is reinforce our open syllable concept.
Shin.
Closed syllable and silent E.
Shine. Shown. Shown.
Back side of the board. Let's review the sounds. Ubble,
Ubble.
ibble,
Ibble.
Asian,
Asian.
jun,
Jun.
sieve,
Sieve.
chur.
Sure.
Good, now read, both of you.
Pole. Ibble.
Ubble.
Asian.
Shun,
Jun.
jun, and it can also say shun. Sieve, chur,
chur,
jur. Now, we would have already read these with the kids quickly, but these need to be taught in the groups the way they're laid out in the notebook. We then move into words. Okay? Start here. Exformable.
X. Form. Ubble.
Okay, now we're going to do step tracking. Exformation. Say the word.
X formation. X formation. Ubble to Asian.
Good.
X formation.
Subformation.
Subformation. Subformation. X. Subformation.
Okay. Subformation.
Subformation. Subformation. Asian to Jun. Subformation.
Okay. All right. John, read this.
Subformation.
Shun. Good. Shun. Okay.
Shun.
Okay.
Shun.
Since we have slight error, we keep it there and we rotate around it. X.
X form
Shun.
shun.
Good. Shun.
Shun.
Transform.
Shun.
Shun. Good.
Interform
Shun.
shun.
Good. Now I'll start expanding. Good.
Interformation. Version.
Good.
Interform
Again?
Version. Interform version.
Good.
Trans-interform version. Trans-interform version ibble.
So I will start expanding the kids' syllable knowledge through the back side of the board. Shame.
Shame. Shame. Shh.
Good.
Shame.
Good. John, George, you have shame. I want shame.
Shame.
So your correction is to tell the child what they had and what you want. Okay? Next word, time.
Time. Time.
Good. Next word. Track.
Track. Ack.
Okay? Is that a hungry vowel? George?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it gets the bigger piece, right?
Yep.
Good thinking. Okay? Next word. Plate.
Plate. Plate.
Okay? We've just introduced two syllable words, so let's go to our line drill for this. Your word is open. Echo.
Open.
Draw a line. O-pen. First syllable.
O.
Next.
Pen.
Good. Next. Rotate.
Rotate. Rotate.
Excellent. Next. Relate.
Relate.
This line technique is very powerful to get the student the idea of different syllables. And it helps highlight the fact that in relate, re is an open syllable. and it's just an E. By drawing that line, they clearly see that that is separate, an open syllable, and that's a silent E syllable. Okay? Probate.
Probate. Probate.
Good. For reading, these students are finishing up Ghost Ship. That's why we introduced the next concept, which is vowel changing. So a new concept, we practice words out of French Quarter Phantom, which they'll be getting into in a day or two, but we're finishing up reading Ghost Ship. Open Ghost Ship, and let's go to chapter 4. Okay? And we're going to alternate vowel tagging these words, okay? Go ahead. George, you may begin.
Skull.
John?
Clump. Raft. Smash. Swam. Bend. Glimpse. Strain.
Group pressure release. So I might have a child here, and in fact it works ideally the horseshoe table. I might have a child here, child here, child here, child here, child here. And how it works, it's the same principle. The only difference is I can't sit on the right of them. George will read, and when he stumbles or makes an error, he points. When he makes the second error, I point or stumble. Then I take over and the whole group reads, and then I'll give it to the next student who reads. I point, I take over, the group reads, and then we move right down the line.
So you just go from student to
Yeah,
student.
so I want you guys to stumble on occasion, okay? Ready? Use your card. Go ahead, George.
By the end of the next day, the Misty was slippery miles 70
Miles from the New Orleans. Now, when I take over, that means read with me. Okay, ready? Dot. Dr. Ralph had special infrared binoculars to see ships in the black of night.
All the detectives were scanning the river for any ships with a skull
And crossbones on the flag. With me, George. That means when I take over, we all read. Ready? As they got to a bend in the river, George had a glimpse of something strange. George.
Doc, come here. Something is in that clump of bushes in that inlet. You can just see it with the binoculars.
George said. Dr. Ralph grabbed the binoculars. It was difficult to see, but George was right. Students either do a summary, this is about, a reaction, I liked or didn't like and why, or a reflection, this reminds me of, and they do the response. For spelling, if they struggle with the word, they may actually look it up in the book. They can't copy sentences, but they can copy words, okay? Go ahead, guys, and quickly do a written response. Fast Friends deals with 3 activities. 1 is the sounds in isolation. 2 is syllables, where we put sounds together with vowels. And 3 is alternating reading sentences in a text. Let's start with the reading of sounds. Cheryl and I will alternate. It's important you alternate, otherwise the student with more power will make the other one do all the work.
Sh.
Mm.
Mm.
Ooh,
Ah.
Ah.
A.
Notice you cover anything that you've dealt with.
Sorry.
You.
E. F. Great steak break.
Now before I start, I can tell the kids I want you to focus on the yellows. Do other sounds, but make sure you do the yellows, and that will make sure that they're reviewed. Now, I'll usually pull a syllable, and if I've worked with yellows, I might pull out this, and the rule of likes applies. That means if the child takes out a white, they put in a white, a like color. If they take out a color, they put in a color, any color that they've covered. So a white, a color, a color. Okay, I'll read that. Chown, chun.
Choin.
Okay. Chun, chun.
Shun, shun.
I might have students review an area we already broke down. So I might say, all right, let's review the silent E with a partner before we go into the reading. Complicated, complicated.
Smile.
Keen,
Seam.
aware.
Mistakes.
Confuse, confuse. Now if neither partner knows, they can give a thumb up, and that means they need help from the teacher. Confuse.
Amazed.
Frustrated.
Seek.
Communicated.
Home.
Hide.
Close.
Cool. Once they finish reading the words, they alternate reading text. Okay? So if this is where we're at, I would go ahead and finish. I'd start with the sentence, as I got close to the top, the frisbee was missing again. This time, even Aretha was confused.
Well, Judy, I was sure it was in that tree, said Aretha. I must be seeing things.
Something funny is happening here, I said.
The frisbee was in that tree, and then it was in this tree.
Aretha, keep a close eye on the frisbee.
I want to climb this next tree.
When students are good at word attack, we may alternate a little different way. One will read the paragraph in a 2-inch voice. That's like this. And the other will give a quick summary. Then they switch. Let's try that. I quickly climbed the tree, but as I got close to the top, I heard a yell from Aretha. There it is, Judy. There's something grabbing the frisbee. Summary?
When she quickly climbed the tree, she heard a yell from Aretha saying that something was grabbing the frisbee.
Okay.
Sure enough, as I went to get the frisbee, I felt a little black hand grab me. Could I be seeing things? Was this a monkey? As it gave me a little smile, it quickly grabbed the frisbee, tossed it at Aretha, and then hopped on my back.
Okay. As Judy's going up to find the frisbee, she runs into a friendly monkey who actually throws the frisbee back to Aretha. Okay, so we're trying to get children to give quick summaries and short and sweet. Alternate. One will read, the other will summarize, and alternate. That's a technique that's further on. When I do fast friends, this is when I can tutor students. Chap. The child says the new word, chap, steps on the tile at the bottom, kicks out the change. Notice they say the sounds of the letters as they leave. Then they read it, chap. Shap, shap, sh, ch, to, sh. Then they read shap. Shop, shop, sh, ah, a to ah, shop, shasp, shasp, sh, ah. Now I got to kick out this way. S, s, shasp, shops, shops, sh, ah. Kick down and out. S, shops. Shaps, the child says shaps. Kick, pardon me, shaps, the child says shaps. And steps, sh, a, s, a to a. Then reads shaps. That's step tracking. Child echoes the new word, steps, kicks out the change, then says the letter that goes out and in the sound, p to t, then reads the word, shats. Since the child reads the word, you don't have to say it again. One more. Steve. Bats, bats, b, at, s, sh, to b, bats. Sound tracking. This is a child whose segmenting is very good, but they have difficulty with sounds. So they simply tell the sounds that change. Again, I'll say the new word and the child will echo. Bist. The child will go bist. E to I. Bisp. The child will go bisp. T to p. Bisp. Notice they re-word the word. Busp. The child would go busp. I to Busp. Bups. Child would go bups. So in sound tracking, the child just echoes the new word and says the sounds as they enter and leave, and then read the word. Concept tracking is where we want to be after concept 9 or 10 whenever the child's ready. And that's where we are reviewing all the rules and we move pretty quickly. The child just echoes the word and changes. Steve, Beps, 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 Bleps, 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 Blesp, Blesp, Bless, bless. Needs a double S. Bliss, bliss. Bliss. So notice the child's echoing the new word, changes and says the new word. Pliss, pliss. Pliss. I call reading the new word a check. They're just checking themselves out. Plitch, plitch. So notice here we're working on the hungry rule. Plib, plib. Now after concept 9, I move into two-syllable tracking to make the child use open syllables and ends. So for instance, I might at this point, if I've done our family, ply bar, and the child will go ply bar. They're realizing this is an open syllable. Ply bar. Plow bar, plow bar, plow bar. Plow bore, plow bore. Child would then read plow bore. Plobe, plobe. Plober, plober. And then I'll do two changes. Play B, play B. Open syllable A and then final E. Play B. Then as you move through the program and you get words like this, the child would put the rest below. Play B. Play B would have a slew at the end, often EE. Okay? So the child puts the rest below in two-syllable tracking. And reading syllables, if the child's having trouble blending, PAB, I have them glue the vowel to the consonant. PAB, PAM, PAG, PAG. So I have to glue that vowel to the first consonant. Once they get fairly established at this, I want them reading syllables. So the child here would go plag, plam, plane. Then once we're beyond concept 9, I have them vowel tag. So I add or make up some syllables like this. And the child will do plamin. Then I might have a word like this. Child goes plaffin. Or I might have a team where they stay together. Plaffin. Okay? Then once they can change, I may have something like this. The child will go plobin, plobin, plobin. Plabin, plabin, plobin. So this is as we're moving into multi-syllable work. And again, I add this to the tracking. Phase 1, pressure release.
It was 9 o'clock at night in Jackson's Square, New Orleans. Orleans.
Good. Jake, with me. Jake and Gail White ate at the Open Gate Hotel. Then they went to Jackson's Square to sit on the black iron bench next to the fence and watch people.
There weren't many people in the square. Jake and Gail had heard tales of the phantom, but they dismissed.
Notice I slide her over, I swing under, and I pick up her pace. Them, with me, them as folk tales. They felt too wise to let the tales of a drifting
phantom.
Notice we already read phantom, so I left it out for her to fill in. Meddle with their plans for the
night.
Okay, pressure release. 2 struggles, take over. You sit to the right of the child. Never say anything. If the child makes a mistake, point. That means sound it out and what makes sense. and then point again. If they still struggle on the second point, read the word and take over. That should be done every day, 25 minutes to a half hour a day. Now at night, the child will take a passage from your reading. I will first have read it with them so that they can read it correctly. So we will read the passage together. Okay? So in this case, I might have her swing and I'll read. Go ahead. We've already read it, so let's read together. It was 9 o'clock at night in Jackson Square, New Orleans. Then I could take over and then we'll read together. If I have a class, I will read the passage with the class while they follow me. Then I'll have them read it to themselves in a 2-inch voice and then read it to a partner. Then they take it home and practice it 4 times so they have it perfect. Then when they come in the next day, the very first thing I have them do is read that passage. Okay? So, pressure release and the 4 repeated readings with different passages is crucial for phase 1. Now, we will, as part of phase 1, time the kid at least once a week on a passage, a cold reading. Okay, such as, in this case, here, we would time the child for 1 minute, and then when they're finished, we know the grade level of the story, so we would have a Xerox copy of this that we would take notes as the child makes a mistake. So the child would be in front of us here, and we would be taking notes on our copy. Now this particular child read to here, and so they read about 52 words, and they made 4 errors. So I would graph that. 52 with 4 errors, and the grade level was 4.0. Okay? So that we would start these timed readings on a regular basis, and this shows growth because the child may start at that and end up in a book at 7.0 with 80 words per minute. So this shows very substantial growth. So that is a timed cold passage, and we do that at least once a week, but often is 2 or 3 times a week. Okay? Here's an example. These are the most frequent words that students read. They make up about 50% of everything you read, write, and spell. I have tried to organize them as best I can into syllables, and I begin with closed syllables. So once the child's into the program, I will have them read just the words as fast as they can in a minute. And then I will graph that. Okay? There are graphs in your notebook that we use. Okay? This is an example of the graph paper that we will use. Okay? So, now again, this same graph is used for words per minute. So we had a child read 50-some words a minute. We would put the mark here. Okay? And then I would put like 52 with 4 errors. I would write here. And now I have my baseline. And then I will put grade level, what grade level that was below. Okay? So we will have a graph on their timed readings, okay? And now we're going to have a graph on how many words they read in a minute. Okay, let me give you an example. We're going to time me for a minute. Steve, are you ready? Yes. Go. Now the child can use his card or pencil. In, up, if, and, it. A, the, did, man, can, it's, in, up, if, and, it. A, the, did, man, can, it's, in, up, if, and, it. A, the, did, man, can, it's. You see how that works? 1 minute, as many as they can. We then...
You don't do the whole box?
Nope, just the words. Okay? Then we graph that. Okay? Now, remember in first grade in the spring, you should be reading about 70 words a minute. Okay? Now I timed the child in the phrases for 1 minute. How many phrases are they reading? So I would be the child, and when we say go, here's what the child will do. In it, a man. In and up, and it did. Can it, the man. If it did, can the man did it up. And if it can, in it, a man. In and up, and it did. Can it, the man. If it did, can the man did it up, and if, it can, in it, for 1 minute. Okay, we then record on their graph paper how many phrases they read correctly. Now that'll be a smaller number, of course, because if you'll look, okay, they might have gotten 40 phrases, okay? Now that's many more words, but they might have gotten 40 phrases. So we'll graph here on another sheet how many phrases they read. Maybe they read 30 in a minute, 32 or so, with 3 errors. Okay? We will graph that. Okay. So we have 3 graphs, don't we? We have their timed readings, that's one graph. We have the timed words as a graph, and then we have the timed phrases. The phrases can be tougher for some kids, easier for the other. But as soon as they're starting to get fluent, you introduce the second box, then the third, then the fourth. Okay? Then you move to the next page, which has more fluency exercises. Okay? And then we go to the last page. Okay? So there's 3 pages. These fit all of the most frequent words. Okay? Okay. Gavin, this is a student that when I checked these words, he could read the words okay with some stumbling. Now, one of the key things is when the kid makes an error when he's doing it. Well, first, when I introduce this, I first make sure they can read the words correctly. Step 1. Before I time them. Can they read them? Step 2, when they make an error, I have my pencil, I point above it, and I read it with them. So if they're going in, up, it, I will point to it, and they will say with me, if. I correct it right there, because I don't want them to practice it incorrectly. Okay? So then they'll go and, at, it, a, the, dub. I will point, and together we'll say did. So that'll slow them down a bit. So I make sure they can read it. Then if they make an error, I will point and say it with them. So we'll do this timed for a minute and timed phrases. Now, with Gavin, I went through and he read the list pretty well. He had a little trouble with its, and that's about it. So I went to the next list of words he read well, the next. So with Gavin, I did page reading rather than the box reading. And here's how that looked. It's graphed differently. He now reads all the words as fast as he can. And he's going to start with a high number and move with a lower number. So that was page fluency rather than the box fluency. Now let me give you an example of what Gavin did. Are you ready, Gavin? Yes. Go. In, up, if, and, it, a, the, did, man, can, it's, I, its, get, but, not, had, of, his, at, is, bus, men, then, of, plant, and, to, crops, he went, you, that, must, land, from, was, ship, shop, band, that, as, with, they, branch, be, have. Great. Stop. We go ahead and timed. He started reading. It did take him at 90 words, 90 seconds. He's now at 30. That's a tremendous growth in fluency. Okay? He's now doing all those words in 30 seconds. I then time him for phrases for the page. Are you ready, Gavin? Yes. In it, a man, in and up, and it did, can it, the man, if it did, can the man did it up, and if it can, but the men, not his, get it him, of his bus, had his, I had, of it can. We do the whole thing, time it for a minute, we then graph that. That'll of course be much less. But the goal is, here you're going to start with a higher score, and then you're going to get a lower score. Okay? So with Gavin, he knew these all right. So I went into doing page timing rather than the box timing, and they're handled a little differently.
And what made you do that?
Because he knew the words pretty well.
The first time he did it.
Yeah, he just wasn't fluent. Okay? Then I went and checked where his breakdown was. He did pretty well on the next page, in the first box, second box, third, but he started to break down at the last box. So I started box reading there. That's where he read as many times as he could in his minute, for the words and phrases there. Meanwhile, I was doing page reading on his previous page. Okay? Now, as soon as he finished here in the box reading and can do that fluently, I now can do page reading, timed reading, for the second page, can't I? Okay? Our goal is to get through the third page and do page reading with all 3 pages, where they're doing speed words, speed phrases. Okay? Now again, in tutoring, I show parents how to do the timed words and the timed phrases in boxes, and then I show them how to do timed page reading. And they handle that whole program at home. I have found some students that are a little older in my program that are higher second or third starts, who may be 4th, 5th grade, can read these words okay in the frequent words. So I quickly walk through them, and I might put them on the time page reading for the words and phrases, but they do it pretty quickly. What I found they have difficulty doing quickly is these sight words, which are tough sight words. In all programs, phonics, they call these the red words. Now, I will go ahead, if a student has trouble with this, use this for my timed readings, and I go 2 rows at a time. So I will start by having the child just do these top 2 rows, and I'll time them for a minute how many times they can read that. Then we graph it. Once they get fairly fluent, I'll add the next 2 rows, and I'll only time the 2 rows. And again, I will basically print these rows out, okay, so that they're only doing 2 rows. Then I'll move to the next 2, okay? So I'm doing these timed sight words until we're finished. Once we're finished, I then do all of them timed. And again, my goal is to get them to read these words at their fluency rate for grade level. Okay, so let's say he's a 5th grader in the spring of 5th grade. Well, 1st grade is 70 words, 2nd is 90 words per minute, 3rd is 110, 4th is 130, about 150. I want him to get to read this so that if I work it out, he's reading about 150 words a minute. Okay? So we'll do timed sight words. So there's kind of a 3-phase program for this. One is, for beginning readers, we use these timed frequent words. If those are easy for students, I go into the sight words. And if they have that, it's now diagnostic. When a student misses words while they're reading, I write them down. So let's say this child misses went in this book. And then they miss weren't. And there's certain words they miss. I write them down. And when I have 10 to 12, I make a box and I time them. And I make phrases with those words. And I do timed words and phrases with the kids' words. That's the diagnostic program. Now, you can see how that'll work with any kid who has problems. By the way, you'll see these words clear up quickly. So, again, we'll start with timed frequent words, but often 4th, 5th graders don't have trouble with that. Then I'll move to the sight words, and then if the student has no trouble with that, diagnostic. As they're running into problems with words in the books, I record them, and when they have around 10 or 12, I make word lists, create phrase lists, and use those for my times. What I've done is I talk to students about phrases that they answer questions who, what, where, when, why, or how. So it was 9 o'clock answers what question? When? At night. When? In Jackson Square. Where? New Orleans. Where? Jake and Gail White. Who? Ate at the Open Gate Hotel. Where? What or where? So, I first talk to kids about phrases, answer the questions who, what, where, what, why, etc. And then I start reading and they have to tell me what questions they answer. We found that phrase reading immediately impacts comprehension, is what we found. Now, once I've done that, I then model with the kids. If I have a class on an overhead, I model. If I'm individual, I model in the book. And I will have gone ahead and swing under phrases already like I've done here. So I will model. It was 9 o'clock at night in Jackson Square, New Orleans. Jake and Gail White ate at the Open Gate Hotel. Then they went to Jackson Square to sit on the black iron bench next to the fence and watch people. There weren't many people in the square. Jake and Gail had heard tales of the phantom. Notice when I don't know a word, I swing into it. So the phrasing very nicely moves into swinging into words. But they dismissed them as folk tales. So we're swinging into phrases, and if we don't know a word, we swing into it. Now once I model, I then have the child do it with me. Go ahead and Nancy, do it. It was 9 o'clock at night in Jackson Square, New Orleans. Jake and Gail White ate at the Open Gate Hotel. If I have a class, I Xerox this page, phrase it, and they practice it at their desk with me while I read.
And you're on the overhead or
On and over, and they have it in front of them. So they're once I practice it with them, they then in a 2-inch voice practice it themselves. It was 9 o'clock at night in Jackson Square, New Orleans. Jake and Gail White ate at the Open Gate Hotel. Till they think they can read it properly, then I have them read it to a partner. Then the next day they come in, they're going to get something already phrased, and they will practice this phrasing till they think they have it, and then they will read it to a partner. So each day I will have phrased a page for them to practice, and then they practice it with themselves and then to a partner. Then I will give them a page where one page is phrased for them and another page isn't. And they then swing in pencil and do the phrases, and that's kind of the test. Okay?
And how often do you do that test?
Well, as soon as I think they're ready for phrasing, I go ahead and do it. Then I just expect them to phrase with their business card or pen. From that point on, I just expect phrasing to go on. Okay? Once they have that down pretty well, I can introduce double phrasing. Okay? Now in double phrasing, what we're doing is we're looking at larger areas. Again, I do it just like I did before, that I model first. In this case, the young detectives is really one phrase. Watched is another component. So I did the whole thing. The young detectives watched as an inky blank figure drifted into the square. So I'm doing a little larger group. It was like the old pictures. That's really two phrases of Dracula. It had a black cape is really it had a black cape, isn't it? And seemed to drift, not walk into the square. As the figure passed the old square's lantern. Now that's really two phrases. So I'm teaching double phrasing, which is what good speed readers do. Okay? So then I will model. The young detective's watch as an inky black figure drifted into the square. It was like old pictures of Dracula. Then the children do it with me, and then I Xerox a page from the book with double phrasing. I then practice it with them, and then they do it with themselves, and I read it with a partner, just like we did phrasing, till they have the double phrasing done.
And you're monitoring constantly, particularly when they're reading with a partner.
Yeah. Okay. And then I give them a test where I give them a sheet, and they double phrase. Okay. Many students, I don't go to the double phrasing technique. I stay just at phrasing. But once a child gets real fluent, I may introduce that. Okay? Now, part of phase 2, so phase 2 we introduce phrasing and maybe double phrasing. We also introduce time nonsense words. This ties again into dibbles immediately. Now this is graphed a little differently than my real words. So time nonsense words are done differently. Our whole goal is to read these in less than 10 seconds. That's what a good reader does. Okay? So, that's under words and quotes. And I'm going to go ahead and read this to show you what I mean. Here's how fast a good reader goes. Rasnip, deb, jit, sag, fim, lep, tib, sab, lib, leg, hab, mam, nep, ham, lan, cad, dit, kicks, yap, zeg. That's how fast we want. So I will time a child, and we'll first practice them, and then I will time them, and they will read as quick as they can. They may use their pencil if it helps. When they get quick, they're going to be too quick for their pencil. Okay? I found that kids with severe reading problems can only do between 10 to 20 in a minute. Okay? Remember, a good reader does 142 of these and 140 to 150 in a minute. They can only do 10 to 20 in a minute.
Fifth
So
graders do how many?
they do between 140 to 150 in a minute. Okay. Now, if you do this in less than 10 seconds, you are between 140. You're now getting up. If you do it in 9 seconds, you're around 140 to 150. Okay. So we will practice this, and then we will go to our notebook, and we will graph that. And that's called. These are called. These are our nonsense syllables, so they'll be graphed in a different way. So we would put, I would actually put words in quotes at the top, words in quotes. And the child initially, I would put the date and page, like page 6. He may have read 20. Okay, he may have read them all, pardon me. He may have read all 20 syllables and it took him 20 seconds, which is pretty good. Okay?
So do you mark the number of words or how long?
I'd write how long it took him. It took him 20 seconds to read that. I do that one time. Okay. Now the next day he gets faster, and the next day it takes 15 seconds. Okay. So you're going down on the graph. So initially he initially took 20 seconds, and now it took around 15. Okay.
Same number.
Yeah, but I don't stay there. I mean, I do different things. This is tough. Consonant teams, and I time him on this. Again, I want this just as quick. Watch. Quimp, wedge, thump, scratch, quint, nedged, roch, quasp, nish, chock, crick, squitch, fash, scutch, fisk, thretch, naff, chedge, frath, whecked, weck. Okay, that should be, again, I'm shooting for less than 10 seconds. If there's more than one sound, you do the frequent sound. Ready. Go. Shafe, chief, plo, few, thos, pews, squay, sheen, skew, fame, hose, chel, quo, shray, sleep, few, tafe, seat, choke, few. Okay? French Quarter Phantom averages 10 words per line. By the way, that's easy to figure out. You basically will count how many words, you can count how many words in like 10 sentences, and then divide by 10 to figure out the average amount of words in a sentence. Okay? But you're looking about how many, in a line, not a sentence. So each line here when you average it out, each line here has about 10 words. So I put a dot after the fourth line, at about the fourth line. When there's a partial sentence, I'll merge it with another partial, so that it comes out to about 4 full lines as a dot. Okay? Now, if 4 full lines is a dot and there's 10 words in a line, that's about 40 words if I reach there in a minute, right? So this student, if he's phrase reading, if I want him to read 40 words in a minute, when he gets to that dot and it's a minute, I would say mark. And that means that if you're at that dot, at that mark, and when I say mark, you're reading at exactly 40 words a minute. Now, of course, this kid who's reading 80 words a minute needs to get to 200 and some. So what I want to do is get to that dot quicker. Now if I get to that dot in 30 seconds, he's now reading double this in a minute. So that makes 80 words a minute. That's not going to help me. I want him at about 120. Now if I can get him here in 20 seconds, that means he's reading 40 words in 20 seconds. In a minute, he's reading 3 times 20 or 3 times 40 or 120 words a minute. Okay? So that's my goal. If I can get him here at 20 seconds, he's now read these 40 words in 20 seconds. That's 120 words a minute. So I will say, Steve, are you ready? He said, I'll say go. And then he'll start phrase reading. Mark, he's a little ahead of the time. Now, that means at 20 seconds, he was a little ahead. That means he's reading a little faster than 120 words a minute. Mark, he's still slightly ahead. Mark, he's now significantly ahead. He's reading a good 120 words a minute. Then I have him do a retell to check comprehension. Okay? Now, once he has that down, If I had him reach this dot in 15 seconds, that's 40 words in 15. How many 15s are in a minute? 4. So if he read 40 words in 15 seconds in a minute, that would be 160 words a minute, right? So now we're cooking. I'll say, ready, Tom? Yeah, go. Mark, he's not there. That tells him to pick up his hand pace. Because the hand paces the reading. Mark, he's now close to the pace. Mark, he's now on pace. He's now reading 160 words a minute. So, with the child at the fluency stage, this is where I'm putting my focus. At the fluency stage, and I have some kids test on it, I will use gum if I need to, sugarless gum. I teach phrasing, and then I teach timed readings. Okay? And I work these time readings. Then I turn the kid on to books, try to find books that he can read, and I assign reading per night to get him to read a lot and do journal entries. And that's my knowledge of books. I'm looking for a book that'll make this kid a reader, is what I'm looking for. Now, I also teach skimming and scanning, okay, in this phase. In skimming, you are trying to get an overview of the page or an overview of an article. And so when you skim, again, I recommend using your hands. Double phrasing is great for skimming. I'm looking for keywords, and your goal is to just get a general idea of the article so that you can give a main idea what that's about. Okay? All right, this is simply about Dr. Ralph trying to find some weapons to deal with the Phantom. Okay, notice there's not a lot of details. Skimming is get main idea. So skimming is actually why we teach the double phrasing, is to get a kid to look quickly and to get an overview. We use skimming for newspaper articles. We use skimming sometimes when you're bored in a book that's a lot of description, you'll skim over stuff. Scanning is where I give a fact and I want you, the child, to find it. Okay? So for instance, I want you to find out, Dr. Ralph talks about a laser. I want you to find out what he has to say. Now the child knows he's looking specifically for the word laser. Here it is. Dr. Ralph described the problem with the laser. He wanted a weapon that was safe, but that could tie up the robot. Good. I want you to find a new type of gun he developed. Oh, he developed a very safe gun called a net gun that shot out a net. Okay? That's scanning. So skimming, I'm teaching a child to get the overview. Scanning to find a specific fact. In textbooks in class, almost all classes make you scan. They ask a question and you got to scan to find the answer. But our kids don't know how to do that. They have to reread the whole chapter.